Millions of people all over the world appreciate the joy of dining at an establishment which serves delicious food. During this timeless occasion, we savor not only the unique qualities of the food being served, we also consume various other important characteristics of the dining experience while seated inside any dining establishment. The service we are given, presentation of the meal, style of the interior surroundings, and even our dining companions also significantly influence each eating experience. This series will visit the booming metropolis of Victorian London at the height of the British Empire to experience dining from one gentleman's viewpoint during that period. The journalist Nathaniel Newnham-Davis, generally known as Lieutenant Colonel Newnham-Davis, was a British food writer and gourmet. His acclaimed London establishment reports earned him a fine reputation during the latter decades of the Victorian era. Through his unique culinary journeys, we shall explore fascinating accounts of various establishments in late Victorian London he felt worthy of patronage. Nathaniel Newnham-Davis provides our unique view into fine dining in the late Victorian period through his 1899 book titled Dinners and Diners, Where and How to Dine in London. This was a time when elegant two-wheeled horse-drawn carriages like hansoms were still in vogue. With each chosen restaurant, the acclaimed food writer provides more than just a routine review. His captivating accounts welcome the reader into a select world of culinary achievements with a side dish of keen observation. He provides exquisite social commentary and contemporary background for each establishment he visits, which appears to be as important to him as the food on offer. Vivid descriptions of the atmosphere and distinguished people that made these restaurants their second home make us seem as if we are sitting at the next table. On today's episode, we will visit Romano's. Located in Westminster, London, Romano's was a dining establishment reviewed and recommended by Nathaniel Newnham-Davis in his landmark 1899 book. History of Romano's in Westminster, London. Romano's, founded around 1881 by a man who named the restaurant after himself, first gained notice for serving good champagne and caviar. It was located at 399 400 Strand, Westminster, London. Depending on who you asked, the restaurant's interior was described as being decorated in either a Byzantine or Moorish style. Romano's was one of the most bohemian restaurants in London at its prime, enjoying an in-crowd reputation with lawyers, authors, theater people, and wealthy bohemians. It entertained customers that included the Prince of Wales, who would later become Edward VII, and the caricaturist Phil May. This influential restaurant flourished in the period between the early 1880s to the early 1900s. During World War II, the restaurant was bombed in the London Blitz, sustaining damage from which it did not recover. Romano's closed in 1941. This address is currently the central London office for the collectible stamp dealer Stanley Gibbons. Now, let us present the review of the popular restaurant Romano's by Nathaniel Newnham-Davis. Please note the following review appears as he wrote it at the time, reflecting customs, language, and attitudes of the Victorian age. No offense is intended by presenting his original account, as our channel provides detailed information for historical purposes from the Victorian era. Review from the dinner at Romano's as told by Nathaniel Newnham-Davis. Sometimes after a period of depression one wants a tonic in dinners, as one does in health. My gastronomic malady has been a family feast at which I had sat next to a maiden aunt who, after telling me that I was getting unpleasantly fat, recounted anecdotes of my infancy and childhood, all tending to prove that I was the most troublesome baby and worst conducted small boy that ever was. Something had to be done to banish that maiden aunt and her anecdotes from my memory. The happy thought came to me that, as the antidote, I had better, as I wanted cheering up, ask Miss Dainty of the principal London theatres to be kind enough to come out and dine at any time and at any restaurant she chose to name. I sent my humble invitation by express early in the day and received her answer by telegram. Yes, Romano's, 8. See, I have my pet table. I have been given a beautiful poodle. Dainty, be good and you will be happy. At luncheon time, I strolled down to the restaurant, the butter-colored front of which looks onto the Strand, and the proprietor, the Roman, as he is called by the habitués of the establishment, being out. I took Signor Antonelli, his second in command, into my confidence, secured the table next to the door, sheltered by a glass screen from the draught, which I knew to be Miss Dainty's pet one, and proceeded to order dinner. Antonelli, I must drop the signor, who has all the appearance of a cavalry colonel, led off with hors d'oeuvres. I followed with, as a suggestion for soup, creme pincum, a soup named after a light-hearted journal which practically made the Romano's fortune for him. Then, as there were some beautiful trout in the house, the only question was as to the cooking of them. Truite au bleu, my first thought, was too simple. Truite Chambord, the amendment moved by Antonelli, was too rich, so we compromised by truite meunier, in the sauce of which the lemon counteracts the butter. Côtelette de mouton sefton was Antonelli's suggestion, and was carried unanimously. But I altered his pheasant, which sounded greedy for 2 people, into a perdre en casserole. Salad, of course. Then, taken with a fit of parsimony, I refused to let English asparagus go down on the slip of paper, and ordered instead artichoke hollandaise, vanilla ice en cobaye, and petit four wound up my menu. My humble suggestion as to the name for a poodle having been treated with scorn, Miss Dainty turned her attention to the hors d'oeuvre. There were no plain sardines among the numerous little dishes on the table, and the ordinary tin sardine was what her capricious ladyship wanted, and got. The creme pincum was highly approved of, and I did my best to explain at length how the combination of rice with a bisque soup softened the asperity of the crayfish. Miss Dainty, changing the subject, demanded to know what the seascapes, which are framed all around the room in Moresque arches, were. I told her that the distempered paintings of deep blue sea and castles and islands and mosques, which are the principal features of the room, a room in which everything, the clock, the musician's gallery, the electric light brackets, are of Eastern type, were views on the Bosphorus, and, thinking to amuse, related how when the paintings were first put up, a celebrated battle painter and myself had volunteered to give an up-to-dateness to them by adding some Armenian atrocities to lend life to the pictures, and of the Romans' horror, under the impression that we really meant to do as we said. My humorous anecdote fell rather flat, for Miss Dainty, who did not care much for her trout, though I thought it very excellent, but a trifle too buttery, said that was just the sort of silly thing I would do. The quiet person with a silver chain round his neck had brought a bottle of San Marceau, and the clean-shaven little Italian waiter with a white apron had replaced the trout with cutlets à la Sefton. For these, Miss Dainty had nothing but praise, which I echoed very heartily. Your dinner, everything go right, eh, Mr. Esquire? And the Roman, a dapper little Italian in faultless dress clothes, with a small, carefully tended mustache, a full head of black hair, turning gray at the temple, and talking English with a free admixture of Italian, stood by our table, going round to see that all the diners were satisfied. Miss Dainty did not ask for the deep red carnation that was in the Roman's buttonhole, but before he had passed on, she was pinning it into her dress. And when I ventured a very mild remark, I was told that if I had not been mean enough to let her pass the flower stall without offering her a buttonhole, she would not have to have accepted the one from anyone else, a retort which was scarcely fair. A little too much onion with the perdre en casserole, we both thought. Otherwise admirable. Salad good, artichokes good, though we preferred plain vinegar as a dressing to the hollandaise one, and the ice delicious. Then Miss Dainty trifled with cherries cased in pink sweetness and sections of oranges sealed in transparent sugar, and our 2 friends from the table at the far end came across and took coffee and liqueurs with us, and talked of the old days, when Romano's was but a quarter of the size it is now, when it was far more bohemian than it is now, when there was a little aquarium in the front window into which the sons of Belial used to try and force each other late at night, much to the consternation of the goldfish, when everybody who took his meals there knew everybody else, and a chaff ran riot down the single line of little tables, and when every Sunday morning a devoted but Sabbath-breaking band were led across the Strand by the Roman to see his cellars, best in London, as he used to say. All of a sudden, Miss Dainty, whom these reminiscences did not interest very much, remembered that the door of the parrot's cage had been left open. She was quite sure that the poodle would be trying to kill the bird, and she must go back at once to see to the matter. I put Miss Dainty, who said she had enjoyed her dinner, into a hansom. Two brown eyes full of laughter set in a pretty face looked out at me as she told me to be good and that then I should be happy. The cabman cried, "Pull up!" to his horse, and the pretty lady was off to the rescue of the parrot. Then I went back and paid my bill. 2 couverts, 6 pence. Hors d'oeuvre, 2 shillings. Crème piquante, 2 shillings. Truie, 2 shillings, 6 pence. Côtelette de mouton, 2 shillings, 6 pence. Petit pois, 1 shilling. Pomme, 1 shilling. Perdre, 6 shillings. Salade, 1 shilling. Artichaut, 2 shillings. Glass, 2 shillings. Champagne, 107, 13 shillings, 6 pence. Café, 3 shillings. Liqueur, 5 shillings. Total, £2, 4 shillings. 22nd of February. A selected menu item from this Romano's dinner. Hope you brought your appetite while wearing your best Victorian clothing. In this episode, we will feature the crème piquante, which was Romano's house specialty, a crayfish bisque. This dish was named for the journalist from the Sporting Times that frequented the establishment and made it known to the dining public. The following is the recipe for crème piquante as mentioned in the review. Put in a saucepan 2 ounces of butter and 2 teaspoonfuls of olive oil. Cut a carrot and an onion into small pieces and let them cook gently for 5 minutes. Then take 24 live crayfish, a pound of prawns, and 6 fresh tomatoes. Put these in all together and then add half a bottle of Chablis, and after having seasoned with salt and cayenne pepper, put the lid on the saucepan and let it boil for 20 minutes. Have ready a pound of pearl barley which has been cooked for 3 hours in ordinary stock. Pound in a mortar the crayfish and prawns with the barley, dilute with a pint and 3/4 of stock, and pass through a fine sieve. This done, put the soup back to warm again without letting it boil. Add then a little cognac, in which you have steeped a bunch of thyme, 2 laurel leaves, and a little bunch of parsley, tarragon, and chervil. Finish your soup by adding 6 ounces of fresh butter and serve with sippets of fried bread. Thank you for watching this episode of Fine Places to Dine in Victorian London. Please be sure to watch another episode from this series or any other Victorian to Modern episode shown at the end of this video. Also be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and click the notification button so we can create more exciting content. I wish you good tidings as we remember that sharing knowledge has been a noble deed throughout the ages.